It is 8:17 on a Thursday morning in Columbus, Ohio, and the most important number in your life is hidden behind a spreadsheet window. On the desk, a scratched gray coffee mug, a plastic security badge, and a white envelope with your name printed slightly off-center. Inside the envelope is a severance agreement. Your department will be gone in 21 days. Around you, chairs scrape. Someone is already calculating mortgage payments out loud. Marcus, 3 desks over, keeps refreshing the internal job board. You open one private tab. $632,105. That is your net worth as of last night. Marcus turns toward you, and you close the tab before he can see it. Not because the number is shameful. Because of everything the number is protecting. 13 years earlier, the number had a minus sign. You were 31, earning $61,200 a year as an operations analyst for a regional distribution company. Your apartment sat above a dry cleaner on the north side of town. In winter, the radiator clicked like it was trying to send a message through the wall. Your car was a 9-year-old sedan with one hubcap that never quite matched the other 3. The outside of your life looked fine. Better than fine, depending on the angle. You had a salary. Health insurance. A laptop bag with the company logo. Every other Friday, a deposit appeared in checking. Then rent, the student loan, the credit card, groceries, fuel, and a dozen forgettable charges arrived to collect it. One Sunday night, you finally put everything on a yellow legal pad. $11,800 in your 401k. $4,320 in savings. A student loan balance of $24,700. A credit card balance of $3,180. Net worth, negative $11,760. You stared at the number long enough for the radiator to click 3 times. The next morning, Marcus arrived carrying 2 coffees and a new car brochure. He worked in sales, wore bright watches, and could turn any purchase into a story. He had spent the weekend test driving a black SUV with ventilated seats. "What's the point of working this hard," he said, "if your life never looks better?" It was not a foolish question. Marcus was not foolish. He was generous, socially fearless, and better than you at remembering birthdays. But his financial life happened in public. Raises became dinners. Bonuses became upgrades. Every visible win required a second visible win to confirm it. Your first decision was smaller than his monthly car payment. You raised your 401k contribution from 6% to 10%. Under the story's assumptions, your employer added 4%. Then you scheduled an extra $650 each month toward debt, before that money could become 100 persuasive little emergencies. You kept one rule on a folded index card behind your driver's license. The number belongs to the plan, not the room. At first, privacy was easy. Negative net worth does not attract many questions. When Marcus asked how much you had saved, you said, "Not enough yet." It was true. The card was not a vow of silence. It was a reminder that a financial number needed a purpose before it needed an audience. Payroll needed contribution instructions. Your tax preparer needed documents. A future spouse or anyone sharing legal responsibility would need the full picture. The lunch table and group chat did not. So nothing dramatic happened. The old car stayed. The gray mug stayed. The number began to move. 5 months later, the credit card balance reached 0. You expected music. Instead, you were standing in a grocery store parking lot, looking at the banking app while rain gathered in small silver dots on the windshield. The payment had cleared. The balance simply read $0. You took a screenshot, then deleted it. There was no one you needed to send it to. That small decision mattered more than it appeared to. The $650 did not become restaurant money once the card was gone. Most of it rolled toward the student loan. When the loan disappeared later, the payment did not dissolve into lifestyle either. It was divided, part to a home fund, part to an individual retirement account, part to the emergency reserve. The system learned how to keep money before your lifestyle learned how to spend it. Marcus received a promotion around the same time. The office gathered at a steakhouse on Friday evening, and he raised a glass to finally getting paid what I'm worth. Everyone cheered. He ordered another round. On Monday, he leaned over the divider between your desks. You're probably making close to what I make now, he said. What are you upgrading? You looked at the gray mug in your hand. My margin, you said. He laughed because it sounded like a joke. It was not. Your first proof was not the balance itself. It was what happened when the car needed a $1,140 repair. 2 years earlier, that repair would have gone onto the credit card and followed you for months. This time, you paid from the car maintenance fund. The mechanic handed back the keys. Your retirement contribution continued on schedule. The debt line stayed at zero. The repair was still annoying. Wealth did not make the waiting room more beautiful or the invoice less real. It simply prevented one bad afternoon from recruiting the next 6 months of your life. That was the first shift. Income had stopped being the only thing holding you upright. Income is a stream. Net worth is what remains after the water passes through. For years, you had compared salaries and bonuses. Your legal pad measured something quieter, assets minus liabilities. It did not care whether the car looked impressive. It cared what the payment removed from what you owned. The distinction changed how you watched the world. At lunch, Marcus talked about the monthly payment on his SUV because the total price felt too heavy. You talked about your process because the account balance felt too personal. He was not wrong to enjoy the vehicle. You were not morally superior for driving the old sedan. You were simply buying different things. Marcus was buying a visible present. You were buying an invisible future. And because almost no one knew the number, that future did not yet belong to anyone else's expectations. The system was boring enough to survive your moods. At the beginning of each year, your employee retirement contribution increased by 1 percentage point until it reached 15%. Under the assumptions of this story, your employer added 4%. The contribution happened through payroll, before a restaurant, advertisement, or ambitious weekend could make a claim on it. Your salary did not explode. It moved from $61,200 through ordinary raises, then 2 promotions, reaching $107,000 13 years later. The promotions helped, but the architecture mattered more than any single raise. Each time income increased, you allowed some improvement in daily life and sent most of the difference into the system. You did not pretend the market offered a smooth return. It did not. Some statements arrived green. Others looked like months of contributions had vanished. For planning, you modeled a hypothetical 7% annual return before taxes, fees, and inflation. 7% was not a promise. It was a dial on a calculator, a way to test whether the plan made sense under an explicit assumption. Starting with $11,800, using the salary path in this story, increasing your contribution rate, adding the assumed employer match, and modeling 7% annual growth produced approximately $303,787 in the workplace retirement account after 13 years. Not in a straight line. Not without risk. And not available for a victory lap at 34. After the debt was gone, you began placing $300 a month into an IRA and, later, $700 a month into a taxable brokerage account invested in diversified, low-cost funds. Eligibility, taxes, account type, and suitable investments depend on individual circumstances. In your fictional case, the contributions remained within the relevant limits and the tax professional had the full records. At the same 7% modeling assumption, $300 a month for 10 years became about $51,925. And $700 a month for 9 years became about $104,901. Your actual statements did not land on those numbers with mechanical perfection. Markets do not accept scripts. The estimates mattered because they exposed the engine, consistent contributions, time, and returns building on earlier returns. But the privacy system ran beside the money system. Before sharing an exact figure, you asked 3 questions. Does this person share legal or financial responsibility for the decision? Does this person have a defined professional role that requires the number? Will knowing the exact figure improve a joint decision? If the answer to all 3 was no, you shared the method instead. You told Marcus that automatic contributions helped you avoid decision fatigue. You told Lena that you kept 6 to 10 months of essential expenses accessible as your responsibilities grew. You told younger coworkers that a percentage could be easier to sustain than chasing a dramatic monthly number. You did not tell them the balance. This protected the first thing, your decisions from becoming performances. When people know a number, they begin writing stories around it. Some stories are admiring. Some suspicious. Some practical. The stories may be fair or unfair, generous or selfish. But once the number enters the room, every modest choice can look theatrical and every expensive choice can look inevitable. Privacy let you evaluate the choice itself. Did you want the trip? Did you value the car? Did the investment fit the plan? Could you help someone without damaging your own obligations? The answer did not need to look consistent with an audience's idea of a person worth a certain amount. The second thing privacy protected was the compounding process from interruption. Visible money invites visible uses, a renovation, someone else's down payment, a business idea, a group vacation. Some uses may be loving or wise. But every request arrives with a face, while the future arrives as a row in a spreadsheet. Your index card gave the future a seat at the table. Then the system grew large enough to be tested. In year 5, you bought a modest townhouse for $260,000. The down payment came from the home fund, annual bonuses, and tax refunds you had deliberately kept out of your regular spending account. You chose the smaller place, 3 blocks from the one Marcus thought you should buy. The kitchen cabinets were dated. The second bedroom faced a brick wall. The monthly cost fit the plan without requiring the plan to become optimistic. At the housewarming, Marcus stood on the narrow patio and looked toward the neighboring fence. You could have afforded more, he said. He meant it as encouragement. You answered, I could have borrowed more. That was true, but incomplete. You probably could have spent more too. You simply did not want everyone who knew your salary to know what your salary had failed to reveal. By then, the dark green line on your spreadsheet had passed $200,000. Later it passed $300,000. The milestones arrived on unremarkable evenings between dishwasher cycles and calendar reminders. Outside, almost nothing changed. Inside, requests began to sound different. Lena called one autumn evening because the bakery she managed was closing. She had enough savings for 6 weeks and wanted to know whether you would co-sign a loan so she could buy equipment and start a catering business. You loved Lena. You also knew that co-signing would connect your credit and her business risk in a way neither of you could easily undo. You did not disclose the portfolio. You said no to the loan and offered a defined gift of $3,000 for licensing, deposits, or groceries while she found her next step. She was quiet for a moment. "So you can help," she said, "just not the way I asked." "That's right." The boundary felt cold over the phone. But it was clear. She accepted the gift, found another management job, and began catering on weekends without the large loan. Privacy had protected the third thing, your relationships, from an exact price tag. Lena did not have to look at a six-figure account and wonder why her problem deserved only $3,000. You did not have to turn a statement balance into a referendum on how much you loved her. You could decide what help you were willing to give, communicate the limit, and let the relationship remain larger than the transaction. But privacy was not magic. It did not guarantee that people would understand. It did not make every boundary compassionate. It simply removed one number from the negotiation. Then came the year when the green line bent downward. Your retirement and brokerage accounts declined on paper while an inspection found water damage behind the townhouse shower. The repair estimate was $8,700. Marcus had recently moved into a larger house and was carrying 2 car payments after getting married. For the first time in years, both of you felt financially compressed at the same moment. He coped publicly. He talked through every balance at lunch, asked coworkers what they would sell, and changed plans whenever a new opinion sounded more certain than the last. You coped privately. You paid for the repair from cash reserves, reviewed the investment allocation, confirmed that the time horizon had not changed, and kept making scheduled contributions. You did not need to defend the temporary decline because you had never invited anyone to celebrate the temporary high. That protected the fourth thing, decision quality during stress. Public success can create a stage. Once people have applauded your number, a falling number can feel like a public failure. The temptation is to do something visible, to sell, chase, explain, or recover quickly enough to preserve the identity. Your number had no audience. It was free to be temporarily ugly. Privacy also reduced the financial breadcrumbs you left in public. It did not make you immune to fraud or replace strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, account alerts, and skepticism. But you stopped posting balances and never shared account or identity documents with strangers. The less you treated wealth as content, the less there was for someone else to use. Years passed. The townhouse mortgage balance declined. A fictional 2026 valuation placed the home at $349,000, with $214,000 remaining on the mortgage, about $135,000 in equity. Your accessible cash reached $36,492. The workplace retirement model showed $303,787. The IRA model showed $51,925. The taxable brokerage model showed $104,901. Total, $632,105. Then the white envelope appeared on your desk. At 8:17 that Thursday morning, everyone receives the same news, but not the same number of choices. Marcus calculates the distance between his severance payment and the next mortgage draft. He has assets. He has equity. He also has a household built around 2 strong incomes, and one of them has just disappeared. You calculate differently. Your essential monthly expenses are about $3,450. The $36,492 cash reserve alone represents a little more than 10 months of those expenses under the story's assumptions. The taxable account creates additional flexibility, although selling could create taxes and market risk. The retirement accounts remain retirement accounts. The townhouse is shelter, not an ATM. You do not combine every asset into one comforting but misleading pile. Still, the conclusion is clear. You do not need to accept the first job that calls. This is the visible payoff, though almost no one can see it. Not a sports car. Not a resignation speech. A calendar with blank space. You take 3 weeks before applying anywhere. You repair a loose cabinet hinge. You visit Lena on a Wednesday afternoon and help package catering orders. You walk through your neighborhood at 10 in the morning and notice how many delivery trucks move through streets you usually see only at night. When interviews begin, one company offers $112,000 but expects constant travel and an immediate start. Another offers $96,000, a smaller title, remote work 3 days a week, and a manager who answers a question about turnover without changing the subject. 13 years earlier, salary would have decided. Now the system decides with you. You take the second job. The lower salary does not mean money no longer matters. It means accumulated money has changed which form of compensation matters most. Time, control, commute, and emotional bandwidth can finally enter the calculation. Marcus hears about the new role over coffee. You took 16 grand less, he says. Yes. Can you afford that? You hold the scratched gray mug between both hands. I planned for it. That is all you say. If Marcus knows the full number, the decision may stop being about the job. It may become a debate about retirement, the mortgage, the townhouse, and who buys lunch. The number protects your right to make one decision without inheriting 10 conversations. But while privacy preserves your options, something else has been happening quietly. You have started using it to avoid more than financial pressure. The problem begins with a family trip. Lena proposes renting a lake house for your mother's 60th birthday. Your share would be $2,400. You do not want to go. The house sleeps 14, the schedule is crowded, and you have already promised the first month of the new job to learning the role. But saying that feels complicated. So you reach for the easiest shield. I can't afford it right now. Lena accepts the answer. 2 days later, she calls and offers to cover half your share. The lie has turned her generosity against the wrong problem. You refuse. She presses. Finally she says, "You helped me when the bakery closed. Let me help you." You feel the boundary collapsing, but the boundary is not the real issue. The issue is that you used money to hide a preference. I can afford it, you say. I just don't want to spend the money or take the time that way. Silence. Then Lena asks the question you have avoided for years. Why do you always make your life sound smaller than it is? That sentence stays with you. You had believed there were only 2 choices, disclose the number or protect it. But secrecy had offered a third path, make yourself appear less secure, less capable, less free than you really were. At first, the disguise prevented expectations. Eventually, it prevented intimacy. Lena did not need your account balances. She needed an honest answer. Marcus did not need your net worth. But perhaps a close friend deserved to know that the layoff frightened you even though it did not threaten next month's rent. Privacy had protected the architecture of your life. Secrecy had begun hiding the person living inside it. That is the hidden cost of quiet wealth. When almost no one knows what has changed, almost no one knows what your choices cost emotionally. They may see the same car and assume you are stuck. They may see the smaller house and assume you are afraid. They may hear you decline an invitation and assume you have no room. Sometimes being underestimated feels safe. Sometimes it becomes lonely. There is another risk. If you never speak honestly about money with the people who share responsibility for your life, privacy can become negligence. A spouse or committed partner cannot build a joint future around missing facts. An executor cannot carry out a plan they cannot find. A tax professional cannot report documents you hide. A trusted contact cannot help detect trouble if every door is closed. Tell almost no one does not mean tell no one. It means the exact number goes to people with responsibility, competence, and a reason to know, not to every person with curiosity. It means a spouse or a financial partner receives truth, not theater. Professionals receive the information required for their work. Estate instructions are organized and accessible to the appropriate people. Financial institutions receive accurate information through secure channels. And trusted relationships receive honest boundaries even when they do not receive a balance sheet. The number can remain private while the life becomes more truthful. So you call Lena back. You do not tell her $632,105. You tell her the part that matters. I'm stable, you say. The layoff did not put me in danger. I took the lower-paying job because I could choose it. I should have told you that instead of pretending I had no choice. She takes a breath. Okay, she says. That makes more sense. You agree to visit the lake house for one day instead of the entire week. You pay your own way. The boundary remains. The cover story disappears. Nothing about the portfolio changes that afternoon. But the meaning of the privacy rule does. On the night before the new job begins, you sit at the same kitchen table where you once calculated a negative net worth on a yellow legal pad. The scratched gray mug is beside the laptop. The dark green line is higher now, though not as high as it was 3 months ago. Markets move. Houses need repairs. Careers bend. Numbers that change your life will continue changing. You take the folded index card from your wallet. The number belongs to the plan, not the room. Underneath, you add one sentence. But the truth belongs in the relationship. Your net worth protects more than future spending. Kept with intention, it protects optionality, boundaries, decision quality, security, and the right to let your life remain ordinary on the outside. Kept too tightly, it can also protect you from being known. This week, notice the next time someone asks what you earn, own, owe, or can afford. Before answering, ask what the number would improve. If it improves a shared responsibility, tell the truth fully and securely. If it only feeds comparison, offer the principle instead. If you are using money to hide a preference, state the preference honestly. Then let the number return to its quiet work. Because if wealth is meant to buy freedom, how much of it must remain invisible for that freedom to stay yours?